For weeks now I've been racking my brain trying to come up with a framework for an end of year video. It's been a challenging year for this, where I haven't played a lot of the big games that came out in 2023, and the one that I didn't necessarily have a lot to say about. Much of what I did play I've already written about or made videos on. There are also titles I've barely scratched the surface of where my thoughts need a little more time in the incubator. I've thought about discussing the games I didn't play and the reasons why, but there's only so much you can get out of I don't like fighting games, or my relationship with Resident Evil 4 was finite and I have no desire to revisit it, or I don't have the creative capacity to get the most out of Baldur's Gate 3. Above anything else, I don't want to simply phone it in. I want a unique hook for an end of year video, something to stand out and draw eyes. Something worthy of your generous attention. There are hundreds of great end-of-year roundups online already. Many of them echo my sentiments about the games I played or provided some interesting insight into the ones I didn't. And after all this waffling, after all this soul-searching, I've come to the conclusion that I really just want to talk about Dicey Dungeons. There's a lot to be said about keeping your premise so simple that even a child could pass it. And in this regard, Terry Kavanagh's high-stakes dice-rolling dungeon crawler is the king. Trapped in an eternally damned game show and transformed into the tools of your own emancipation, Dicey Dungeons is a game about what happens when strategy and fate clash violently, where choice and consequence go hand in hand more viscerally than any other game I've played, and where a single, humble modifier can transform the game into something staggeringly different. Dicey Dungeons is a game about navigating the floors of a dungeon, collecting equipment, battling foes, and leveling up to the point where you can face off against a final, tough encounter. Abilities are activated by the placement of specific randomly rolled dice, and as such your options round by round are contingent on what you have been offered and how you have prepared yourself to mitigate against what fate bestows upon you. There are 6 character classes, each of whom has access to different sets of equipment and a distinct way of navigating combat, and each class has 6 unique quests to proceed through. Campaigns are short and to the point, a brutal, precise gauntlet of randomly shuffled, bespoke encounters that constantly force you to reappraise your strategy options on the fly. Do you go for a glass cannon approach and hope that the dice ever roll in your favour? Or do you do the death by 1,000 cuts thing and give yourself an infinite amount of options for all eventualities? Do you focus on protecting yourself, healing while slowly whittling down your foe's health, or take away your enemy's tools of evisceration through careful doling out of status effects? It is here that Dicey Dungeons truly stands out in the genre. Because of how all of these abilities interact and stack, and how varied your enemies are even in a single run, it's impossible to account for all eventualities. Every battle itself feels like a self-contained campaign, one where you have no choice but to think 3 steps ahead, and even then sometimes still a spanner gets thrown in the works. It's an extremely sophisticated meeting of chance and strategy, but because the core mechanics are so robust and so malleable, at times it slips into the pajamas of some different genre altogether. One of the classes in particular has a run that transforms the dungeon into a series of defined sequence puzzles that requires you to make sense of how your abilities and the die faces react and synergize with one another. This is possible thanks to how drastically modifiers change your experience of the game and how you approach its challenges, despite the fact that mechanically you are still just rolling dice and settling them into squares on a board. Some campaigns have dice rolls no longer random, instead progressing in sequence. Others might adopt a ride or die approach, pushing your luck at the risk of losing all of your combat options for the round. One campaign does away with dice altogether, instead securing your future endeavours with a coin toss. There's a very clever combination of ideas that allow Dicey Dungeons such a wealth of unique experiences. Although wrapped in the language of chance, Lady Luck is not the architect of all this. Terry Kavanagh has worked diligently to ensure that even with the randomized layouts, equipment and enemy placement, every run feels good, feels doable, except Thief 4, which I'm stuck on at the moment. What the hell is your problem? Beyond the mechanical brilliance of the game and its incredibly appealing art style and fun music, Dicey Dungeons has been something of a panacea during a quite difficult year. Working in healthcare during a period colloquially known as winter pressures and suffering from burnout, not to mention my already established issues with anhedonia, I found it extraordinarily difficult to maintain focus on any one thing for long periods of time. This is part of the reason why I've barely touched touched most of the popular games that came out this year, why I don't have the brain space to invest in multiplayer games, even the more casual ones, why I have a backlog of things I'm genuinely interested in getting stuck into but just cannot focus enough to give them the proper time of day. The silver lining to all this, and the motivator behind this video in the first place, is that I know that whenever I return home, no matter how tired or fed up I might be, I can fire up my Switch and attempt a couple of runs of this magnificent pint-sized dungeon crawler, and everything will be okay. Low stakes, endless replay value, a beautifully singular experience that dropped into my life at the absolute perfect time. Dicey Dungeons is my game of the year for 2023, and maybe it should be yours too.